Okay, so let's dive into one of the most baffling mysteries out there. It all starts when a little kid, maybe 2 or 3 years old, looks up at their parents and starts talking about a life they've never lived. What in the world is going on there?
I mean, just imagine your own child saying that to you. It's a real quote that researchers have documented over and over. It's jarring, it's personal, and honestly, it's often just the tip of the iceberg for a story that seems to defy all logic.
And this isn't some isolated thing. No, researchers have found a whole pattern of these kinds of phrases. A kid might casually mention their other family or a car they used to drive when they were big. They're not playing make-believe. It sounds like they're just remembering. But remembering what exactly?
So, that's the big question, right? What are we really looking at here? Is this just a kid's wild imagination running loose, taking bits and pieces of things they've heard and seen? Or could it actually be something more?
To even begin to understand that something more idea, we've got to look at one of the most well-documented cases ever. It's the story of a young boy with a memory that, on the surface, just seems completely impossible. So meet Cameron Macaulay. He's just a toddler living in Glasgow, a big city in Scotland. But he starts talking non-stop about his other life on this tiny remote island called Barra, which is, get this, 200 miles away, a place he's never ever been to.
And listen to how specific he is. We're not talking about vague daydreams. He described a white house right on the beach. He talked about watching airplanes land on the sand, which, by the way, is a real and super unusual thing about Barra's airport. He even came up with a name for his other dad and a tragic story about how he died.
As you can imagine, Cameron was so insistent about all this that his family just didn't know what to do. So they reached out to an expert, Dr. Jim Tucker. And this is the moment the story goes from being a private family puzzle to a full-blown scientific investigation.
So, if you're a researcher, how do you even start to unpack something like this? You can't just take the kid's word for it. You have to be methodical. You have to try and connect the dots.
And there is a process. First, and this is crucial, you write down everything the child says before you do any digging. Then the search begins for someone who died, someone whose life story actually lines up with these statements. Finally, you go through it all with a fine-tooth comb and see what matches up, the hits, and just as importantly, what doesn't, the misses.
For Cameron, there was really only one way to put his claims to the test. They had to go to Barra. So, the whole family, along with Dr. Tucker and even a documentary crew, made the long journey to this remote island to see if this memory was real.
And what they found was, well, it was complicated. They actually found the White Robertson family house, exactly where Cameron said it would be. He even seemed to recognize things inside. They even found someone who confirmed, yeah, the family who used to live there had a black and white dog. But, and this is a huge but, nobody had ever heard of a Shane Robertson, and no one from that family had been killed by a car. So some amazing hits, but also some major misses.
Now, Cameron's case isn't the only one like this, not by a long shot. There's also the story of James Leininger, a little boy in America who had these awful, recurring nightmares about being a WW2 pilot whose plane was shot down over the ocean. And just like Cameron, his story was filled with these incredibly specific details a toddler just shouldn't know.
Okay, these stories are seriously compelling. They really make you wonder. But any good investigation has to ask the tough questions. Is there another way to explain all this? Could there be a more down-to-earth reason for these impossible memories?
And that's the core question, isn't it? This is what proponents of the past life theory always come back to. How could a 2-year-old possibly know about World War II fighter planes or remote Scottish islands without having been there?
Well, skeptics have a pretty compelling counter-argument. They say you don't need to look for a past life, you just need to look more closely at the child's current life. The idea is called cryptomnesia, basically a hidden memory. A child sees or hears something, forgets they did, and then that information pops back up later, feeling like a genuine memory of their own. So let's use that idea and go back to the James Leininger case. A huge part of his story was that terrifying, recurring nightmare of a plane crash on fire. It felt incredibly real to him. So where could an image like that come from for a toddler? Well, it turns out his dad had bought him a video about the Blue Angels aerobatics team. James apparently watched this thing constantly, and guess what's on it? A segment with old World War II footage, including a clip of a jet getting shot down and bursting into a huge fireball.
the exact image from his dreams. Okay, but what about the specific plane, the Corsair? That's not exactly common knowledge for a 2-year-old. It was one of the key things that made his parents think something supernatural was going on. Turns out, right before his nightmares got really bad, the family had visited a flight museum twice. And what did that museum have? A huge World War II exhibit with a Corsair fighter plane right there on display. He had seen the real thing up close. But maybe the most jaw-dropping moment was when James, who was just 3, said this to his dad. It sounds like something a seasoned combat pilot would say, not a little kid. It's pretty chilling, right? And you know what? It basically was. That sentence is an almost word-for-word quote from a real pilot in a TV documentary about, you guessed it, the Corsair plane. Just another piece of information, probably absorbed from the TV, that his young mind filed away and used later. So when you put it all together, you're left with 2 very different, but you have to admit, 2 very powerful stories to explain what's happening in these cases. You've got story number 1, Echoes of the Past. This is the idea that these kids are somehow tapping into real memories from people who have died, maybe offering a peek at reincarnation. And then you have story number 2, The Power of Story. This one says that a child's amazing brain is just an incredible story-making machine, weaving together bits of TV, museum visits, and things they overhear into a brand new, convincing narrative.
And that's really where we're left. When these children speak, are we hearing a faint echo from a life that was lived long ago? Or are we just seeing the ultimate proof of how powerful a child's mind is at building a world from the pieces it's given? Whichever it is, it's a fascinating mystery.